Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Mirador Television. My name is Max Hurd and I'm supposed to be here with Stewart Dalby. He is, I'm not sure where he is. Yes. Okay, well, he'll be back in a moment. So today we will be going through Energy Matters with Stewart Dalby. That'll probably be around 9:30. And he has a lot to talk about. It's been a lot this week. We're probably going to argue a lot about the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. She will be in office in 2 days. She comes in officially on the 9th. And then she can get her information from the Treasury Department. And she will have her plan, hopefully by next week, for the economic collapse we're in right now. But yeah, I'm not sure where Stewart is. He shall be back in a moment. And Keith has just arrived back. Good morning.
Morning. Max, how are you?
Not great this morning, actually. I only just arrived, unfortunately. I can't tell you.
Until the old curmudgeon turns up.
I honestly, I can't describe how much I hate public transport. I missed the bus this morning, which was my fault entirely. I didn't wake up in time. So I had to get a different bus to the train station. And then the trains were delayed, as they are every day.
Yes, the trains are most notorious for...
They always have been, haven't they?
Hmm?
They always have been.
Yeah.
Would you remember a time when they weren't?
No.
No?
I remember after the war, then you would go to a station and you would simply go onto the station in the hope that a train would come along at some stage. There was very little in the way of schedules. But the fact is, of course, is it puffed into the station. Choo, 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 choo. Absolute magic. Why we ever did away with steam, I have no idea. Yes, I do know, but I mean, I don't approve of it. It was riding on public transport. I mean, in the 1930s, when I wasn't born, but in the 1940s and the 1950s, was an absolute pleasure and joy, because even though they were never on time, they were exciting. These great steam trains, billows of smoke, chuff, 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 chuff. But on board, life was very civilized. And when I returned from Canada, when I was working temporarily in Birmingham, I would go down to London a lot. And you'd get a third-class ticket, but the moment it left the station, if the dining car hadn't been filled with first-class passengers, and it never was, you could go in and you could sit the whole journey in the dining car, and you have the most magnificent breakfast. It really was a terrific breakfast.
Yeah, I've heard about this. They used to have like food shops in the trains. Why did they get rid of that?
Don't ask me.
Well, you know what? Profits.
Well,
to maximize profits and maximize space with as many seats as possible.
What you're absolutely right. But of course, what they've done is they've taken the glamour out of traveling by train, and as a consequence, what you do is you then put yourself up for criticism. So actually, the train companies are always under criticism. But even in the days of British Rail, leaving here and going up to London, they used to have a buffet car. You would get in the morning and you would actually get a bacon sarnie and a cup of coffee, and you would stand all the way. And in the evening, you would get on and get a gin and tonic, and you would stand all the way, and you didn't care.
How long ago did they get rid of that?
They got rid of that in about the mid 1980s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. But come on, Stuart. There's far too much at stake here for you not to appear.
He's gone to order himself a coffee, I believe.
Has he? Oh, yeah. Right.
Well, yes.
But it was glamorous to travel on the railways, and it's not glamorous anymore. What do you want? Your coffee? I'll go and make sure you get your coffee.
Well, I recently got to travel in a 1940s bus, and that was just incredibly comfortable. It was nice. They actually sort of like cared about comfort.
Yes. Have you ever been on the Bluebell Railway?
When I was very, very young. I don't remember it.
Well, I don't know whether they still do it. I'm sure they do. But at Christmas, they have a silver service You get on board the train and you puff up to wherever he goes to, East Grinstead, and you get first class service in the Pullman car, the way that it used to be, and you actually get off at Horsted Canes. And there's a choir there to sing carols with you and so on. So it's absolute magic. If you want to do anything special with your young lady, take her on that.
One thing before you go, I actually know someone who stole the entire Bluebell Railway train, hijacked it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a story in itself.
That is a story.
Don't tell that sometime.
I will.
Well, I don't think we'll be doing energy matters today because it's all bloody in the papers.
Oh, we can still go through it.
Well, maybe not.
Good morning, Stewart. How are you?
I'm all right, I suppose.
I was just saying how much I hate public transport.
Oh, well,
Always late.
what do you prefer instead? How are you going to get around?
My motorbike soon.
Right.
I've got a motorbike. If you want to budge up this way
Well,
a bit.
no. It's motorbikes. God, how I hate motorbikes.
I don't
It's full of those
particularly...
those bloody people, isn't it?
Those bloody people.
You know those guys, those blokes who kill everybody. Devils, what's it? What are they called? You know, the devils.
Hell's Angels?
Hell's Angels, that lot, yeah. I suppose you're one of those, are you?
Oh, definitely. No, you're talking about like 0.0001% of all motorbike users.
Where do you get that statistic from? From this bonky?
No, from my brain. I just made it up.
Yeah, that sounds it. That figures, yeah.
Well, I'm getting
1% brain we're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I'm getting a motorbike just because it's convenient and I hate public transport. And then eventually I'll get my first car, which would be a Reliant Robin. Have you ever been in one of those?
What?
Reliant Robin.
No. What is it?
Well, for those of you out there, I can't show it on screen right now, but I absolutely would love for you to search it and see what it is. Reliant Robin. Okay. So I can drive this on a motorbike license, even though it's a car. It's the car from Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, right.
This.
Oh, well. I'm profoundly uninterested in cars and motorbikes, actually. All I want from my car is to get me from A to B quite safely, all right? I don't care how fast it goes, I don't know how it looks. When I pulled up, I had a Skoda, is it Skoda?
Skoda.
Nice family wagon, fine.
Well, this car isn't particularly safe. They do have a tendency to do this, as they've only got 3 wheels. They tend to flip over sometimes.
And look up the traffic.
Yes. Well, they're great cars.
Well, I gave up my car in 2017 because, and I've saved 20 grand since then.
Really?
Well, it always.
What, by not having a car?
Well, yeah, because.
But you would have to rely on public transport, which is probably.
Well, the public transport I need here is perfect. I mean, the bus service is very, very good.
The buses are very good here. You get the I'm assuming you get the 28 or 29 to Brighton, and then 700.
Well, but then you've got this shortage of drivers now because of bloody Brexit. By the way, I want you to tell me one benefit we've had from Brexit. One benefit, one good thing.
One good thing. Okay. Well, first of all, we're out of the EU. We're less bureaucratic. We're not controlled by some people we're not accountable to. We never elected the people in the EU, and they were making our laws.
Well, that's not a benefit as far as I'm concerned. Leaving the EU is actually a bloody disaster because look at those people waiting for the thing. Looking to get on their holidays, right? Because they haven't got any drivers. Right. Secondly, there's lack of investment in universities, which we used to get previously. There was all kinds of bonuses, and being in a market that size, for God's sake.
Oh, I don't disagree. There were plenty of benefits.
Yeah.
But I think having unelected people controlling what you do is a huge negative, and I'm glad to be out of it.
Oh, right. Good. I'm not.
Well, I am. I'm assuming you voted to remain.
Of course. I'm quite bright, you know.
Well, I think I think all of my family voted to leave. I don't think there's anyone who voted to stay. I can't think of any, at least.
The point about the referendum, most people didn't know what they were voting for. They didn't understand what they were voting for. Only now are people going to find out about the shortcomings of leaving the lots of things.
I think people knew that it was going to be bad economically. I think a lot of people knew that. But why were we in the EU in the first place? It was a terrible decision. And again, we're run by people who we can't vote for. That is the worst system imaginable.
Oh, bullshit. What do you mean we can't? Look, the reason we did that, because it started off as a very good trading situation.
Yeah.
All right. I think it probably did make a mistake by really expanding to the extent that it did, with all those countries, peripheral countries, right? Yeah, that was so you have to share the pot around to all those as well. On the other hand, it is a very, very important political and economic union. And certainly leaving a market like that is bonkers. And what are they doing now? Doing deals with New Zealand, right?
Yeah, what's the acronym?
Back in the day, right?
Yeah.
New Zealand was the dairy farm for Britain.
Yeah.
So what is the point of bringing frozen meat halfway across the world where you can get lovely Welsh lamb around the corner?
I know. I 100% agree with you. Wouldn't that be lovely? We should maybe leave all of that, right?
Yeah.
And be independent.
But look, we've got such shortcomings. Our productivity is the lowest in Europe, right? Okay. So, what have we got to be proud of? They're talking about making it a nice tax-free little, what's it? Yeah.
That would be nice, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
You think it would be a nice tax-free, what's it?
I think it would be nice to do that, yes.
Do you know the actual scams go through a tax-free bloody town, right? I used to, when I was in Ireland, I used to write about transfer pricing. Well, Shell had about 16 bloody garages right? And yet they put 3 billion quid through because of the low taxation. So you're going to get fantastic money laundering going through anything that sets up like that. In fact, we are now, London is the world's capital of money laundering, isn't it? Or
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah.
But the thing, you know what I do hate? When people say tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. If you tax the rich don't want to be here. The rich will leave and put their assets in a different country.
Well, good luck to them. Bugger off.
No, not bugger off. We want to keep them.
Why?
We don't want to tax the rich horrendous prices, 40% or whatever, or 50%.
Of course we do.
No, we don't. Because once we start doing that, the rich people just go, oh, okay, bye.
Mm.
And then guess what? We don't get any taxes from them. We get nothing, zero.
Well, that's the situation we've got now.
No, it's not.
It is. Look, all these footballers, all these people are very, very rich, have got their money in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so what benefit do we get from that?
Nothing. If we lowered taxes, maybe they would not do that. Maybe they would keep it here.
But why don't we leave them in Cayman Islands? When they go to the Cayman Islands, they should be expelled from this country, but they're allowed to walk around, do what they like, and all the rest of it. It's ridiculous.
I do not care a single bit about tax fraud. There is not a single ounce in my body that cares about tax fraud.
Well, that's because you don't pay any.
Well, I will commit as much tax fraud as possible. If I'm a millionaire, absolutely I have my money in the Cayman Islands. You kidding me?
And you still want to live here?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the best countries to live in.
I think if you made a millionaire and put your money in the Caymans, that you deserve to be on a little pea green boat with bloody friends like people like Farage. You're most welcome to do so, as far as I'm concerned. Honestly and truthfully, what a stupid thing to say that all these people.
Well, so are you saying what I should do instead is go to Dover, get in a dinghy, and cross to France instead of the other way around?
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't want to give my money to the government at all. I think it's.
But then you've no right to bloody be a citizen here. If everybody else's taxes, why should you be exempt? Because you're rich. Well, you're not rich. I don't know.
Well, no. If I do get like millionaire status, If I do become very, very rich, I will absolutely commit tax fraud. I will absolutely put my money in the Cayman Islands. Not even a second thought will cross my mind about doing it.
Right. Well, perhaps your taxes could have done something good, like improve the NHS or do other nice things. So why are you depriving people, poor people, of that benefit?
I don't want to give my money at all to the government.
Well,
Because the
I
government
happen to be
the government don't just go, oh, let's help the poor people. What do they ever? They don't do that. They go, oh, let's line our pockets. That's where the money's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What who? The rich people?
No, when you pay your taxes, it doesn't all just go, oh, we'll help the poor. We'll help the poor. That's not how that works.
Well, I know that's not how it's working.
I know.
No,
So why would you want to give your money to
talking
them?
about a wrong thing. Right, fine. I'm in a high tax bracket, right?
Yes.
I say I'm very happy to be in a tax bracket if it goes to the right place.
But it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Right. I still want to live here, and I want to actually benefit from living here, and I pay my taxes. And I'd rather it went to something else, but I'm perfectly happy to do it. I mean, so you're saying you want to be a rich person, and yet you can all buzz off. You want all the benefits of living here. And yet, you're stuffing your money out of the Cayman Islands. It doesn't make any kind of sense. It's just greed, profiteering and greed.
Yes.
So you're in for that, are you?
Yes.
Well, now's your chance with the energy stuff.
Okay, I'll get a job at Shell then, yeah?
I don't think they give you a job at Shell now. I don't think so. No, but producers are one thing, the suppliers are another. Yeah. God, it's amazing. The story, you can't believe the stories this morning.
What are the stories this morning?
Well,
hang on a minute. We've been arguing for 20 minutes and we haven't gone through the headlines yet. we'll do that first.
There's only one.
Oh,
there's only one, isn't there?
I haven't looked yet properly.
Well, look, there's that one. There's the same. This is the same one. What else have we got? That's not revolved to the energy crisis.
Let me go to BBC Papers and then we can see all the headlines. Okay, so we have the first paper here, the Times. We can ride out this storm, says Liz Truss. Right. Okay.
Oh, really?
Apparently so. Well, as much as I don't like her, I still think she was the better option than Rishi Sunak.
But she's a Thatcher clone, that woman Thatcher.
So?
Well, she thinks so. You read the memos. Well, yeah. Well,
I don't care.
Think of the damage that woman did to, she. Well, we can come on to that in the energy when we talk about energy matters. But oh God,
what do you think? Rishi would have been better?
I don't think. Look, I think, and I told you this before. I think one of the shrewd things that Boris did for himself was fill a cabinet of second-rate people, safe in the knowledge that they wouldn't usurp him. Well, he's not there. There isn't one of them who's fit to lead this country. You think back, well, you can't think back because you're not old. But if you look at the Labour Party cabinets of the period 1964 to 1979, it was full of a galaxy of stars. Michael Stewart, Barbara Castle, George Brown, who always pissed all the time, Jim Callaghan, Roy Jenkins, Dennis Healy. This was a galaxy of talent. There's no talent in this government. They're making that great thing about the biodiversity, all the 4 offices of state are held by black people or people of dark pigmentation, let's put it that way.
People of dark pigmentation.
I mean, Indians.
Oh my God. All right.
Right. You think these people are wonderful. They're not. This is going to end in the most amazing mess because she doesn't know what she's talking about.
I genuinely think the Labour Party would have screwed it up even more. I think they would have just gone, oh, we'll print money. We'll give you all free money for everyone. and then it'll be even worse.
Right again. Also didn't do that.
No, I'm sure
All they're
I'm
talking-
sure the Labour Party would have done it perfectly with nothing wrong. Especially if Boris had lost and we had what was his name? Why have I forgotten his name?
Who?
The communist one who ran against Boris.
Oh,
Corbyn.
Corbyn, yeah.
Or do you think Corbyn would have done a better job?
No, of course not.
No.
No,
What I'm saying is it's the best of a bad bunch.
What is?
Boris.
Really?
Yeah. You know what? Out of all the people I know who vote Conservative, and I know quite a few, every single one has said, just bring back Boris. We don't want Liz Truss. We don't want Rishi Sunak. We just want Boris back. I even heard this from my mother, a Green Party voter. Just went, oh, can we just have Boris back? Honestly.
I told you this before. Now look, let me explain quite slowly and simply, right? We have a first past the post system, okay?
Yes.
And we don't vote in that way because we vote in the American style where people vote for the person and not the party, right?
Mm.
So here, people didn't vote for the Conservatives, they voted for Boris because celebrities have colonised politics. And
I don't think he was a celebrity.
Let me finish. He's not a celebrity.
No.
What are you talking about? Of course he's a celebrity, you bonkers man. Come on. Right. I know the man. He is a celebrity. People asked in the street, who are you going to vote for? Oh, we saw old Boris on the television. Oh, he's a very, very smart guy. Are we going to vote for him? Doesn't mean he can run the country because, and all this business about what he's achieved, well, you can knock that on there for starters. It's now come, obviously, that he brought their vaccine tool. Certainly did not. It was the NHS that got that. And then about all the other things he's supposed to have done. Get Brexit done. Well, that was a mistake, in my opinion. And,
Well, he got it done.
No, it was that awful, terrible man who the employee got it done. Cummings, he was fired.
Yeah.
Dominic Cummings, dreadful man. Boris is a congenital liar. He has no moral compass. He is not fit to be head of this government, right? Full stop. And all the people who are going to look, you think about it, how ridiculous, what an insult to our democracy, that the Prime Minister was determined by 160 bigoted Conservatives who don't know their mum from their whatever. And instead, we're a country of 66 million people, and these 160 retards are determining who's going to be the Prime Minister. It's
Are you sure it was
outrageous.
160 and not 160,000?
Yeah, 160,000, yes.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was going to say, if it was 160, that would be a little bit concerning.
Yeah, and they're all bigotry. They're all bigots.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No,
They are.
no. That's just completely untruthful.
How would you
I'm
know
sorry.
that? How do you know that?
What do you mean, how do I know that?
How do you know that?
I know so many Conservative voters. They're not bigots. They
Right.
just don't like illegal immigration, like me. I don't want illegals coming over to this country. That is not bigoted. That is a very sane opinion.
No, that's not. It's bigotry.
It's not. Oh my god.
It's bigotry.
It's not bigotry.
You need a lesson in proper liberal democracy. Bloody God, mixed with what I mean, Farage. You like Donald Trump? Oh, how bad does he going to get with you? Honestly, really. Oh, you're so young to have these views. It's ridiculous.
Did you grow up in a liberal household or a conservative household?
I can't remember. Oh, my father very conservative, which is very, very difficult for a working class family. What my mum has. Yeah, he very class. Well, because he felt differential basically. He felt working class and all the rest of it. And I mean, he'd say things like, when Alex Douglas Hume gave up his title to become Prime Minister, and my stepfather said, God, fancy doing that. Fancy giving up a name that the world had just to be Prime Minister. That's what he was like, all right? And the rest of them, the older brothers, they were very conservative and very racist and so on and so forth. They voted conservative,
If I'm honest, I think you're thinking in the past.
Well, I don't. You do not ascribe what I'm thinking. You do not ascribe to me what I'm thinking. Okay.
You do that to me all the time, so don't even go there. Don't even. I think you're thinking about the Conservatives of years ago.
I don't need a
decades.
lecture on the Conservative Party from you, quite frankly. I have my views. You have yours, and I think yours are wrong.
I know yours are wrong.
You don't know you. You can't
yes.
know. You cannot.
Yes.
You can't. How do you know mine are wrong?
I know lots of Conservative people. None of them are bigots.
How many is much? How many is much? How many Conservatives people do you know?
Most of my family, for a start.
Yeah, that's 5 people.
That's fine.
Can you count? Can you actually count? As well as being dyslexic, can you actually count?
I have this calculator.
Right. No,
Yes,
let's go through it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? 6, 7, 8, 9. 10.
You put me on the spot here. I don't know how many. I know more Conservatives than Liberals.
How many?
I don't know, a sample size of maybe 20 outspoken Conservative voters. Yes.
20.
None of them.
Is that a reasonable sample?
No.
Is that a reasonable sample? 20?
Yes, because they're all of all different ages. None of them are bigots.
Look, if you were a pollster, you wouldn't take a sample of 20 people's age.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I'm saying from anecdotal evidence.
If you could, or anecdotal is what you make up. Now, what if you could come up with a sample of, say, 1,000 people and say what they thought, then I might believe you. But if you're talking about 20, that's ridiculous. That's meaningless.
What would sort of be the questions you ask? Do you vote Conservative? Yes. Do you hate black people? No, obviously not. Oh, well, there we go. We figured it out. What sort of questions do you ask to find out if someone's racist?
Well, I don't know if you've ever met some pollsters, but they know which questions to ask. I have friends of mine are pollsters, and they know what questions to ask and know how to ask them. But to take a sample like that is a bit crazy,
Okay, I will say that was anecdotal evidence. I know maybe in my entire life 3 people who are outspokenly racist.
No. That's not a very good sample, then, is it?
No, of everyone I've ever met in my life, outspokenly, I've only met 3 or 4 people who are actually racist.
Right.
One of them being 92 years old, which is not a shock.
I don't know what that means. Well, we're talking about samples of vote, how people feel.
Yeah, and you're saying people are bigots and racists. No, it's not true.
All right, let's phrase it another way. Behave like bigots. How's that?
How do you behave like a bigot?
Well, by taking certain action.
Do you believe that saying illegal immigrants are not welcome and shouldn't be in this country is bigoted?
Yeah.
Okay, well then every Conservative voter that I know is bigoted because every Conservative voter thinks that illegal immigration is a terrible idea and it's bad for this country.
Well,
so if you believe that very reasonable opinion is bigoted, then yes, everyone is bigoted.
Oh, that sorry, you're sort of not making 2 and 2 make 4. I mean, what you're saying is to say, look, I think that is a very bigoted way to there that these people shouldn't come over here. What you said?
Yes, that's absolutely what I believe.
Look at it a different way.
This is not their country.
Bullshit. Look, it behaves us, like Andrew Mather, to be a compassionate society as a liberal democratic and a neo society. It behoves us to be compassionate, to actually help people who are in trouble. People who've come over here because they're fleeing political or economic persecution. Yes, that is bigotry. It's to actually sort of say,
I don't believe it is.
Well, you're wrong again.
Okay, well, that was the first headline. Let's go to the second. From the Metro, we can ride this storm out, says Liz Truss. That's the exact same
It's the
headline.
Same one. Yeah, right.
Okay. From the Mirror. Now fix Britain. Now fix the Britain you lot broke. From the Mirror. Liz Truss enters number 10 Downing Street, full of promises. I thought she entered officially on the 9th.
No.
Was when Boris resigned.
Yeah.
I thought they picked on the 5th and then got inaugurated on the 9th.
No, she's there.
Okay. Well, she can now get her information from the Treasury Department that she's been going on about for so long, so hopefully we can find out what that was about. From the Daily Express. Together, we can ride out this storm. Okay. The same headline, exactly the same. From The Guardian. Into the storm, Truss vows to solve the cost of living crisis. How? I don't know. Is it going to happen? Probably not.
What do you mean?
Is she going to solve the cost of living crisis? No, probably not.
Maybe she can. You don't know that. Certainly, she can't say that she hasn't got what it takes to solve the energy crisis. And it's like Thatcher. You see, she blew it, and in the end, she set the course for people like this, clones like her. She's the one who started this energy crisis. Who actually, it's her legacy was to disenchant, use the windfall from the North Sea oil and gas to put loads of people out by industrializing the economy. And in terms of energy, she actually...
Did you say reindustrialization?
No. She destroyed industry by using money to get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, she set up the cartels which dominate the supply, right? And the suppliers all are pleading poverty, saying we haven't got enough money. But in fact, they're absolutely coining it. And I can show you that. I can show you a list. I probably read it to you the other day.
We'll go through that during Energy Matters.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to stay that long at this rate. Anyway.
Well, I will say this, and it's probably going to annoy you, but I probably would have preferred Priti Patel. Not because I think she would do a good job, not because I think she was competent, but because diversity. Because that's what the left wants, diversity at any cost. So I think we should have her, a woman of colour, leading this country, because that's what the left wants. We should have done that. If that was an option, I would have voted for her out.
I think that's the most stupid.
No, I would have voted for her out of spite.
Why?
Because it would have been hilarious.
Why would you want to spite?
Because the left is always going on about we need a woman of colour, we need this and that, we need a disabled person with one leg who's gay.
Look, she doesn't deserve it because she is not very bright, and she actually
I agree.
wanted to bring back the hanging, right?
Yeah.
She wanted to actually put these poor people off to Rwanda where they're not going to have a very nice time.
Well, I do agree.
And we should be a compassionate society.
No.
We should take on migrants if we can. I know we are a small island, overcrowded island, and I know it's very difficult, but we must do the best we can to help people who are being persecuted. And, I think with economic migrants, it's a very different kettle of fish. They're coming over here to benefit from our welfare state and also our schools and so on.
Yes. That's the majority of the illegal immigrants coming to this country. They're coming to this country because it gives money.
All I'm saying,
Max,
we should do the best we can in Sicily. Obviously, we can't take them all in. And I don't know quite what the solution is, nor do you.
We're taking 200,000 a year in.
Right, fine.
That's 200,000 too many, in my opinion.
Well, if you can go off to the Cayman Islands with with your $1 million,
Yeah.
they can take your place in Britain, can't they?
Whatever, I suppose.
What we do is we export all the millionaires to the Cayman Islands that are living over here, and we can let more migrants in over here.
I'm sure that would cause no problems and would be amazing for the economy. I'm sure, yeah. I don't see any issue with that plan. But no, I don't like Priti Patel as a person. I think she's I don't like her. But I would have voted for her out of spite because it would have been hilarious.
Well,
That's how Trump got elected, to be honest. People voted for him because they thought, F the system. We would rather have this guy, this TV presenter, this billionaire than Hillary Clinton. That's how Trump won.
Trump also won because 74 million Americans are very stupid. Very, very stupid. So is he, as a matter of fact, anyway.
He's the second most popular president in history.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
where do you get your information from?
Joe Biden, technically the most popular president in history, because he got 80-something million votes.
Yeah.
Trump got 78 million votes.
You're forgetting the demographics of the whole bloody thing over the years, right?
Yeah.
So you can't say that he was.
I know, proportional.
Proportionally speaking, right? Reagan was considered a great president, right? Right?
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln was considered a great president. Yeah. Okay.
In terms of votes.
Yes, but they're misleading.
I know.
They are misleading.
But I just find it difficult to believe how Joe Biden got the most votes out of any president in history, more than Barack Obama.
Simply because that Trump actually pandered to the lowest common prejudice and so forth and so on. And the people he voted for him are not very bright, not very, very stupid.
You say that they're rednecks and whatnot,
yes.
Or idiots and stuff. It used to be, and same here with the Conservatives, that the rich people would vote for the Conservatives and the rich people would vote for the Republicans, and the poor people would vote for the Democrats in America, and the poor people in this country would vote for Labour. In America, that seems to have switched. Why do all the poor people vote Republican and the middle-class, well-off people vote for...
Point one. First of all the Dixiecrats are down in the South. They're
What's
not
the
rich
Dixiecrat,
people.
sorry?
Dixie.
Okay.
Dixiecrats, right? Dixieland, the Democrats in the South, right? Yeah. The rednecks, they weren't very right. They weren't very, very rich, so forth and so on. Okay, now the Republicans weren't necessarily rich, but a lot of them are, rednecks and so forth and so on. So you can't.
Today, yeah.
The Democrats are very, very. The demographics are very, very different in the States.
I know, but it seems to have switched parties, is what I'm saying. 50 years ago, it was poor people voting for the Democrats and rich people in general voting for Republicans. Now it's switched. It's poor, white trash, trailer park rednecks voting for Republicans and well-off, college-educated people voting for the Democrats. Why did that switch happen? I don't know why.
Well, because people became aware of what's going on. Educated people realised what a mess that Trump would leave it in. Look, he brought about an insurgency, for God's sake. I mean, he's just not fit for purpose.
Give over with that.
Look, what happened? People lost their jobs in Pennsylvania and so forth and so on for things like fracking and so on and so forth, right? And therefore, he lost those kind of constituencies. That's what happened. Pennsylvania, Michigan, places like that, where they're all rednecks and they all voted for, and they lost their jobs because of economic change, where the steel mills had to close down, and because fracking came along, and that made lots of money for the jobs and so forth.
Mm. Right. Okay. Well, we'll go on to the next headline. That's from the Independent. Truss era begins with tax warning. So she's going to potentially be cutting taxes.
What's a tax warning?
I don't know.
See what the story says. I don't know what that means exactly.
The Truss era has begun. The I says the I. But the paper says, while the new MP pledges to grow the economy and freeze energy bills, which is not great. Freezing energy bills. Economists say taxpayers or consumers will need to pay out for the bailout. Well, obviously, that's how anything works with these printing of money and tax freezes. The printing of money and energy freezes. You're going to have to pay it back at some point.
It was what she said before, right? Before, not this latest statement, but she said that I will be helping out the poorest people by reducing taxes. Well, the poor people don't have taxes.
Yes, they do.
To pay.
Yes, they do.
Poor people on credit do not pay taxes.
Poor people don't just make below £12,000 a year. That is not true. Okay.
The poorest people do make that much.
The
right?
very, 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 very poor.
Not very, 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 very. Some. Look, the fact is that people who are on pension credit do not pay tax.
Right.
But there are a lot of those. There are much more than you think. I mean, I think about 20% of the population comes into things like that, into benefits and all kinds of things.
Even if you do pay taxes, doesn't mean you're not struggling. My mum pays taxes. She makes about, I'm not going to say how much, but it's below 30, I believe. Maybe 29, 28,000 a year. She has to pay for 3 teenagers, an 18-year-old boy, a 17-year-old boy, and a 16-year-old boy. Yeah. Okay, one income.
Yeah.
She is struggling a lot. Just because she makes enough to pay taxes doesn't mean people aren't still struggling. So it's not just, poor people don't have to pay taxes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Absolutely.
What you see, the whole thing about reducing taxes is an absolute ridiculous thing, because what it does is put money in people's pockets so they can spend it in the pub or the supermarket, and that stokes up inflation. So she's not going to control the cost of living by actually reducing taxation, is she?
By reducing taxation, hopefully by a substantial amount, people will have more money in their pockets to pay for things like food and water and energy bills and rent.
Yeah, and thus stoking inflation.
By letting people eat and keep their houses. What are you on about?
I'm talking about stoking inflation, because of the
inflation will naturally happen. Inflation
does not come. I got a degree in economics. I know what I'm talking about.
Do you? Do you know what you're talking about?
Yes, you don't. You haven't got a bloody clue what you're talking about. Oh my God. Look, if you reduce taxation, that means there's more money to spend, right?
Yes.
So people might be able to spend it on the essentials, but they also spend it in the pub and all the rest of it, so forth and so on. So in order to actually curb that kind of cost of living crisis, you've only got one tool, which is interest rates. And the Bank of England, unfortunately, has not been very good in managing interest rates. So that's sad. But you can see, and then you've got all other kinds of problems, like the difference between the wholesale price and the retail price. In fact, in petrol, wholesale price of petrol has gone down, whereas at the pumps it's still going up. It's because
84p of every litre of petrol tax.
Yeah, quite so. Well, look at the energy thing, right? The wholesale price is one thing. The retail price is something different, because they load things like the standing charge on in between, right? And therefore, that's why they're passing the cap round, saying we need some money. We're going. We're not going broke. We talk about that on the. These companies, particularly energy companies, are not going broke, and yet they're getting a huge amount of money from the tax. We'll talk about that later, anyway. So we've gone through the headlines. We've got
a couple more.
We haven't agreed on anything.
I suppose not. Truss assumes do you want to read this headline? It's the Financial Times.
Truss assumes office with a vow to steer Britain out of energy calls. So, yeah, sure. Fish may fly, actually.
Okay. She already met with the Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. From the Sun here, they have What does this word say? Does it say what I think it says? F-R-A-I-L. Frail. Oh, I thought that said Farrell. I was like, Farrell? Why is the sun calling the Queen Farrell? Okay. Frail Queen greets PM.
Yeah.
And it says in speech bubble here, hello, Liz. And then Truss vows to get the UK back on top, which she won't. That's not going to happen. And that won't happen, I don't think, I don't think anyone would be able to do that.
You will.
Get Britain back on top. I don't think there are any competent politicians left. We are now running out of clowns from the Daily Star. It's hard to believe after the last few years, but we're now running out of clowns. Britain's facing a shortage of red-nosed fools. Okay, and they have a picture of Boris dressed in a clown suit. They edit a Photoshop thing with him in a cannon and whatever. I don't know. That's from the Daily Star this morning. And that is all of the headlines. That's all of the headlines this morning. So, they're literally all the same, every single one.
There's about nothing else going on, presumably.
Well, I'm sure there is other things, but there's this to focus on. I'm sure there's lots of other things. I'm sure the back pages will be quite good because they'll have all the headlines that they would have had, but obviously Liz Truss took every paper. So, that was all the headlines.
I don't think we can write out this time. All that's going to happen now is that the energy
Okay, hang on. I've got a question for you. What are your predictions for the state of the economy from now, for a year's time, and then 2 years' time, and then 3 years' time?
I don't know
what situation.
I don't have a crystal ball.
I know, but if you were to have an educated guess, you have an economic degree, did you say?
Yeah.
What would you predict?
I would think there's going to be 2 years at least of real trouble, real hardship for just about everybody, really, apart from millionaires and stuff.
Because I said in 2020, at the end of 2020, on New Year, when it was just after New Year's, the very first week of 2021, everyone was saying, God, aren't you glad that 2020 is over with, all of that nonsense and the pandemic and all the deaths? Aren't we glad to be out of it? Hopefully 2021 will be a greater year. And I said, well, actually, 2021 is not what you need to look out for. 2022 is when it's going to start to get bad. I've said this to many people, and...
Well, it hasn't got bad. What are you talking about?
What?
What do you mean? You're talking about pandemics?
No. The economy.
Oh, no, it was obviously going to come and stuff.
Yeah, I was saying this. No one else was saying this at the time that I know of. Obviously, you said you were saying the same thing.
Oh, it was obviously what was going to happen because, after decades of unfettered hedonism and spending and all kinds of things,
it
couldn't go on. It was bound to come to an end.
During all the lockdowns, so from March 2020 to, when was the last one? May 2021 was the last lockdown, I believe, that we had. Between that year, we printed almost £1 trillion. We printed something like 900 million.
Max, if you've had decades of consumer spending, right?
Right.
Decades of reckless consumerism, let's put it that way, yeah?
Right.
It was bound to come to grief, wasn't it, basically? You can't go on with this, this consumerism, this bizarre consumerism or reckless consumerism, I call it. It can't go on. And people, they were flying everywhere on cheap flights. They were buying all kinds of clothes. They were going on holidays. They were spending money, and so forth and so on. And, by traveling and all kinds of things and having a nice time. Eventually, the bill comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. And you're right.
Who do you think is going to be paying for all of this? Will it be me, or will it be my kids or my grandkids?
I think it'll be the taxpayers now. I think.
Now?
Well, look. Let's put it this way. This morning they said, okay, that they are going to put the thing on freeze. They're going to hope they're going to reduce it. Put the things on freeze for 2 years, and that will cost £100 billion. That's what they've worked out, right? Now the FT has said we have done a thing, Bob, and we think it's going to be 75 for 1 year. And once the business thing comes in, it's going to be 160 billion. That they've got to come from. The only place they can come from are the taxpayer, or the government. In other words, us. Yeah. And therefore.
But do you think you'll be paying for this back in your lifetime, or do you think it'll be me, or do you think it'll be my kids?
Well, I think it'll be back in my lifetime if I live another 10 years, say.
Yeah. Okay. When do you see? Because I don't see a.
Well, you think? Well, why don't you go back to the 2008, right? Where the financial meltdown happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember 2008.
Right. Well, but the whole banking system collapsed.
Yeah.
Right. And it took, I think, at least 4 years, 5 years, maybe, before everything was back on track. I'll give you one example. When the Lloyds Bank fell,
yeah,
it was more or less nationalised. Okay.
Right.
They sort of nationalised it, so it was owned by us, right? Our taxes. And I think it was only in, could have been 2015, but maybe I got a figure of 2012 when they actually, no, it was 2015, I think, before it was back as a private company, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that is quite a long time. It's 7 years, isn't it?
What was 2008 financial crisis like? Because I don't remember 2008 at all. In 2008, I was 5 years old.
Essentially, it was a collapse of the financial system for all the banks, and all the rest of it couldn't meet the bills because money had been spent, if you see what I mean. So in Northern Rock, people were queuing out in Northern Rock to take their accounts out. And that happened to all the other banks and so forth and so on. It was just a financial and economic meltdown where the currency didn't mean anything, sort of thing. So they were trying to get all their money out while they could. Part of that was due to the subprime thing in America. You know about that, don't you?
Not really.
Well, the banks.
Oh, was that the mortgages?
Yeah, the mortgages.
Yes.
Well, they were giving mortgages to people that couldn't possibly sustain paying them. But the financial decline was when Gordon Brown got together with Obama, and they actually found a way of financing it. I can't remember how they did it, but they did. It all goes back to the Second World War and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and his mantra was the banks are too important to go broke.
Yeah, obviously.
The
banks will always be bailed out.
So they will always be bailed out, exactly, yeah. But bailing out costs an awful lot of money.
I know it does, but they're not do that. They're not going to not bail out the banks.
Yes, but they're a cartel as well. And they got, they charge us for things, don't they? They charge us all kinds of bloody things.
Like?
Well, for looking after your account. 38.
Oh, right.
Yeah, for having your checkbook.
I've been trying to set up a savings account for quite a while now, and God, it's been such an issue. They sent me all down this they tried to get me online, and I was really confused. Didn't work properly. Didn't manage to get in. Anyway, I went to the bank, and I was like, "Can I just set up an appointment to get a savings account done?" And they said no. I said, why? And they said, we don't set up savings accounts anymore. You can only do it online at Santander. You can't, they don't allow you to have a savings account that isn't online anymore. Which I think is not great, because that means they can see everything you do and how much, yeah. It's irritating. So people your age and Keith's age who aren't exactly the best with technology will probably find that very difficult.
What's that doing?
Doing online banking.
Why I do online banking? I do on my phone.
Yeah, I know. But it probably took some getting used to.
Well, I went down. What I wanted to do. I've got some credit cards and Barclays card, one in Lloyd's, right? And the Barclays was ripping me off with huge yesterday, so I said I want to consolidate it into my Lloyd's one, all of it. And then we went through all the thing, balance transfers, which they're big on. Yeah, you change that one, but you transfer it into another bank. Yeah. And when I went through the verification thing, said, well, you haven't passed the verification test. And I was incandescent with rage. I got an A1 credit rating. So what is this all about? So I went down there and gave them a run over everything and said, well, what I have to do is get you another credit card. It's taken 7 weeks to get a second credit card. So what done? Because first of all, they said, oh, you can't do a credit card balance transfer on that one. So why not? Also, but it's something about to do the the credit limit and so forth and so on. Finally, after 7 weeks, I've got 2 credit cards, and I've got all the bank Barclays cards into both of them, which means that I haven't got. I've got them on one is 0%, and the other one is 0.9%.
That's pretty good.
As opposed to 6, but all the time.
Wait, how much was the old percentage?
But Barclays was 26%.
26%.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't start off on that. They kept putting it up gradually without me noticing. So I don't do them online, basically.
That is. I will probably not get a credit card. I will only have my debit card, which I use because I'll only use the money I have. I don't want to use some imaginary bank money that I'm going to have to pay back with extortionate interest rates.
Well, actually, there's one thing that it can be useful. For example, you can get a credit card with a 0% interest, right? By doing a balance transfer from one that's got a high interest. So you switch to one with 0 interest. That's what they attracted, yeah? Right. And that means if they say 0% interest for 2 years, that gives you a free loan, interest, not a loan with no interest on it. You with me?
Okay. Yeah.
You get because there's no percentage interest on that, so you get a free loan essentially. Because basically the bank thinks you'll never be able to pay it back in the time. So they can go, do you see what I mean?
Right.
No, you don't. You don't see what I mean.
Not really, no.
Right.
I'm just sort of saying I do.
Yeah. No, what it is, you get a credit card, which is balance transfer, which gives you 0% interest. So you get your Barclays card and you put it into your 0%, right?
Sorry.
So therefore, they say, well, what offers have you got on balance transfers? And they say, oh, we've got one here of 0% for 2 years, right?
Right.
And after they think that, then you start paying off. So you've got an interest-free loan for 2 years, right? And then they think that you won't be able to pay it back within 2 years, but I could, right? So once that one goes, you transfer to another one. So you're getting interest-free loans, which are very useful if you see what I mean. If you think about it, because you're not. I mean, most loans are about 30%, aren't they? That kind of thing.
30.
Well, 26. I mean, I think some of them go up to 30.
What was that Amiga loan website that got shut down because they were doing extortionate rates? They were doing extortionate interest rates of like 2,000% or something.
I don't know that, man.
There were adverts always on, and it was the singing orange. How can I something alone? I can't remember what it was.
Well, they start low and then they sort of jack it up as they go along.
Yeah, they do. So
all right, we better stop there, I think.
Yes, we'll go to a break. We'll play a clip, and then we will be back with Energy Matters.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
He sat on the bank while the river still chattered onto him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world.
I need to go to the toilet.
That was the excitement that Mole experienced in the story Wind in the Willow.
Keep an eye on the laptop.
And indeed, rivers large and small everywhere all have many stories to tell. The River Ouse that flows through Lewes is no different. In fact, for much of the town's history, it has played an important part. Today, the river carries nothing but pleasure craft. But for a long time, it was a busy, bustling port. About a mile upstream from here is the village of Hamsey. It sits on a triangle of land which splits the river as it curves down towards the town. Hamsey is barely a village today. A few houses with the 13th century church standing in splendid isolation. But Hamsey was a Saxon port in the pre-Norman era. Historians estimate that over 1,000 people lived here, populating a port that saw ships sail up the Ouse to trade goods. There is no doubt that the Normans had a bit to do with its demise. The area was handed over to a Norman lord. But the community was attacked by an enemy it couldn't stop. An army of rats, which disembarked from one of the visiting ships, went ashore and infected the village with bubonic plague. The Black Death. The disease devastated Hamsey. And while there is no historic evidence, legend has it that the residents barricaded themselves in to prevent unaffected people coming in and diseased people getting out. Eventually, they starved to death. Named after the black rats which carried the plague, the Black Death killed over half the population in Britain between 1348 and 1349. The survivors founded another village off Ham, the modern thriving village of Opham. The plague attacked Lewes several times over the following centuries, each time causing significant loss of life. So death continued to stalk Lewes, bringing tragedy to the high street in rather greater measure than other UK high streets. Hamsey gone, but Lewes as a port flourished. Ships and barges plied their trade up and down the Ouse, creating an exciting and bustling waterway. Many of these buildings, which stand on an extension of the high street in an area called Cliff, are built with old ship's timbers. Where Argos now stands was a sailor's pub called the Bear, built as a brewery in 1787, and it succumbed to the carelessness of revelry and burned down in 1918. This quiet domestic street, which runs for a short distance parallel to the Ouse, was the sailors' playground, and history relates that there were more than a dozen brothels successfully operating. Today, this street is known as Little Chelsea. Even the name makes it seem a nice place to live. Rather small abodes have found favour with many modern Louisians and are now favoured homes.
Quick question.
They look good in a tweed
No.
kind of
They
way.
don't say harvest.
No.
So do they?
No,
You're
it's
not
just
living in a
us
full
saying-
brothel.
Thing is,
So
There are other historical backgrounds to raise the interest.
these ones, beer bottles. Yeah.
can't have it in- So people I left every single part of the house to check. Do you see what I mean? And then onto the kitchen.
Yeah.
Maybe so, right? Maybe
Yeah.
All this talk of pubs and trading around town, it saps my energy.
And if I get time,
So I
do you know what I mean?
come
Well,
to
flowering,
this
yeah,
little
I have to
oasis,
get every single one out to
the
both.
Notts Garden in Southover Park, a lovely little hideaway.
Cheers, mate. Did you,
Back to the High Street, or at least its extension into the cliff area of Lewes.
yeah, that's it, yeah. I might
So
be-
I've been wandering around here because Lewes is full of antique stores and models.
do just one, I might be able to, you know, so. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I mentioned, go inside some of these shops and you'll find that they're supported by old ship's timbers.
You're a good friend, you are, John.
Yeah, pretty wonderful.
Another reminder of the days when Lewes was a port.
Your full jokes aside, don't need to say something like that. You're very,
All this talk of water has made me thirsty.
it's very rare.
I made several mentions of the time Lewes had 63 pubs. As you would expect, among the 16 that are left, there are some with strong ties to the community.
That's actually precious.
Over the road from the shops, held up by ship's timbers, is the Gardener's Arms.
You're most welcome.
And
It's
very,
an
very-
absolute
There seems to be a tradition in Lewes, although no one admits to it,
Don't think
of
I'm
omitting the epithet pub or tavern.
very lucky. That's what I'm trying to say.
This pub is called by locals simply the
When you
Gardeners.
get older, you get shit.
And the Gardeners it was. The origins of this pub go back to when it was an ordinary house, owned by a gardener. Often, after work, he would invite other gardeners into his front room for a drink. Eventually, it made sense to formalise the ritual, so it turned into a pub. The Gardeners is a true pub. Unusual now, it only serves pork pies and sausage rolls. Yet each year it's in the top tier of finalists for Pub of the Year. Magnificent. Back to the Street of 1,000 Brothels. Well, perhaps not 1,000, but a few anyway. There's a pub called the Snowdrop. Nice pub, they tell me. Interesting for its name and where it stands. This is the site of England's deadliest avalanche. Just after Christmas in 1836, heavy snow built up on the edge of the downs. There were 7 cottages here where the pub now stands. Despite warnings, the people living there went about their business, totally unconcerned about the snow. Then, whoosh, down it came, demolishing 7 cottages and taking the lives of 8 people. Time, gentlemen, please. Not heard now, but the admonishment of past landlords that it was time to quit drinking should have been heeded by the cottagers. A disaster both for the country and the town. A brief mention of one last hostelry, the John Harvey Tavern. Named after the founder of a local brewery, the one of 16 to survive to the modern day, Harvey's has been around since at least 1790. And an important inhabitant. Along with Mole and Ratty on the banks of the River Ouse. More on that later. For the moment, back to the bar. How I wish I'd lived in Lewes when it had 63 pubs. Bliss. You might think, from the pubs I've been into, that Lewes is a drinking town. The town constable in the late 1800s didn't think so. The town constable in 1890 didn't want it to be. Here are some notes from the High Constable of Lewes, a gentleman called John Holman, dated 1880. Sunday, the 10th of October, visited all the public houses during morning service. All in good order, except Lewes Arms, several there tippling in service time. Sunday, the 17th of October, visited public houses, all in very good order, except the Lewes Arms. Again, a second time, several persons in both parlour and taproom tippling at 11:30 o'clock, time of divine service. Gave the landlord a caution. Sunday, the 14th of November, visited public houses as usual, witnessed very great indecency in the person of George W. Several persons were tippling during divine service, and on our approach to do our duty, they were permitted to hide themselves upstairs in the pub. This was the third or fourth offence of the same kind. Wow, bit different today.
Hello, we're back. I'm just off camera here. Just wanted to apologize quickly. We weren't muted whilst playing that for the first 5 minutes. My bad. I'm very sorry. I didn't realize. I wasn't in the room at the time. I'd gone off to do something, and I hope nothing was caught on the mic. But very sorry for that. Very sorry. But Stewart is going to be doing Energy Matters now. So do you want to go straight into that then?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Stewart Dalby. I am the energy correspondent of Mirador Television. I'm also the editor and publisher of greenbarrel.com, a website aimed at encouraging investment in renewable energy. This morning, we've got quite a lot to talk about in terms of the absolute chaos of the energy crisis. This morning, the latest news we've got is that Liz Truss wants to freeze the energy cap for maybe 2 years. And you all know what the energy cap is. It's the price which is set by the regulator, Ofgem, where they set a thing which the companies cannot exceed. Now, this morning, it's been announced that formerly it was felt that the energy cap, which was originally set twice a year on the 1st of April and the 1st of October, that it's currently 1,971. And on October the 1st, it's due to go up by 80% to 3,500. Okay, and that is a huge increase. Right, and what we want to do is to try and persuade the companies to set the energy cap at 2,500 and freeze it for at least a year or maybe 2 years. This will cost, in terms of lost earnings by the companies, something like 100 billion, all right, which is quite an awful lot of money. So we are now waiting to see what happens next, because the Financial Times says that, in fact, it's not just our own researchers showed that the first year will cost 75 billion, and second year, if they do something for the business community, which I think might cost at least 160 million. You're talking about at least 250,000 billion amount of money to actually, by freezing the energy cap. So you have to wonder where Mrs. Truss can actually get that kind of money from, given what other demands are on the budget. But anyway, let me go back to I have a sensitive view about how it all came to this. And back in the day, in 1974, there was an energy crisis, admittedly not of the magnitude of this one, but an energy crisis, which was formed in large part by the coal miners' strike, because they had actually gone on strike and there was a shortage of energy, and there was a 3-day week introduced. And domestically, I can remember as a small child, well, not small child, but I can remember as a child that we were lighting our house with candles, and we were all sitting around a primer stove cooking the soup for supper. So it was a big crisis. And then finally, Mr. Heath lost power, and the Labour government of Harold Wilson came in, and they actually made a dash for gas to get rid of coal, because he knew that Mrs. Thatcher, or that Thatcher woman as I like calling her, would actually try and get rid of the coal mines. And so it went on like that. And then Mrs. Thatcher got into power in 1979. And one of the first acts she did was privatise the energy companies. And this led to an oligopolistic cartel of 6 energy companies, which put the prices up by hallucinatory amounts. The big 6 cartel was British Gas, English, E.ON, German, Npower, German, EDF, French, Scottish Power, taken over by the Spaniards appeared, and SSE. And they were her shares. Now, Ed Miliband at that time was head of the Labour Party, and he actually said in 2012, if I got into power, I would actually bring in an energy cap. But he didn't bring in a cap. He didn't get into power. David Cameron did in the 2015 election. David Cameron was spooked by the idea of an energy cap, and he asked the Competition and Mergers Authority what he should do. And Mergers and Authority took a long time, but he came up and said, you've got to find cheaper suppliers. And a whole lot of companies, which the economists called infant companies, bundled in and set up deals which obviously couldn't be met if the gas price kept on going. And to give you just an example how exponential a gas price has been, in February 21, it was 38 pence a therm. Now it is £5.71p a therm. This is what gas is measured in. So the whole thing keeps going up. So all these companies just couldn't meet the bill. Say British Gas said, I'd do it for £1,000. And one of the bus companies said, we do it by £800, because they had to buy their own gas on the spot market, which was very expensive, and they went bust. So you've got that situation where all these companies got bust, and the cartels were really still in business. But the government didn't want to know best when these companies got bust. So eventually, they tampered with the idea of getting rid of the green levies or reducing VAT, but that didn't happen. And finally, in May this year, Rishi Sunak said there's going to be £650 grant, more or less, for the poor people, and £400 for every household in the country. Now, this turned out to be robbing Peter to pay Paul, because almost a few days after this idea was set in motion, Jonathan Brearley, who's the head of the regulator, Ofgem, who incidentally gets a salary of $310,000 a year, said the energy cap is going to go by 100 up to 300 by £800, which will take it to more or less 3,000, which means dire fuel poverty for the poorer people. So that went on, and then all of a sudden, it was decided that they would change the dates of the energy cap from twice a year to 4 times a year. And I couldn't quite figure out why they'd done this. And of course, it's obvious. It meant that they could put the price up every 3 months. So we're in a situation now where on October 1st, it should be helping, and it should be, notwithstanding what I've already said about freezing the energy, it would have been 3,500. January would be 4,200, and Chelsea Consultants, which is a think tank, said it could go up to 60,000, by 2023. That means £500 for every home bill. So what they're doing is trying to sort of reduce this by what I just said, by actually freezing the energy cap at 2,500 if they can get it, and then they will actually also, and that will cost £1,000 no, £1,000 billion, no, £100 billion. What am I talking about? £100 billion. And that is very, very expensive. And who's got to come up with that £100 billion? Shareholders, of course. The next thing you know, she's talking about taking up Boris Johnson's plans for nuclear plants. And he was talking about 8 nuclear plants. Well, it takes about at least 21 billion to build a newspaper plant, a nuclear plant. And he wants to have 8 of those. That's 160 billion, isn't it? So we're already in for 260 billion pounds the taxpayers got to come up with. And where else is Mrs. Truss going to get that money? It is a very worrying situation indeed. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Only a couple of symbols. That was.
Okay, and welcome back. That was a good Energy Matters show, actually. I had quite a bit to talk about. So what we're doing now for the second part of the show is looking behind the headlines and finding some other stories. I have some stories that I found online. But first of all, we're going to look behind the headlines. I have a story here from the Daily Mail about Liz Truss. This says, "My bold plan to build an aspiration nation." So we have some bullet points here about what Liz Truss has been talking about. Truss vows action every day to get Britain working again. Do I believe that? Not really. But hopefully she does. And she also says energy bills will freeze at £2,500. Energy bills will freeze at £2,500.
That's about how I said will be freezed.
Will be freezed.
Should say, that's what it should say.
Should be, will be. So if we do that, hang on a minute. £2,500 divided by 12 is £208 a month. Energy bills will be frozen at.
Yeah.
I know we're already paying over that. How much are you paying a month for energy bills?
Well, mine are very low.
How much is yours a month?
Well, I told you, mine was rather different. I set my own at £250, right?
Right.
Safe in the knowledge that I wouldn't use that amount. I've only got a 2-bedroom house. Our demands on electricity and energy are very, very low. And I said to them, look, your smart meter tells me one thing, like that my cost for 6 months, 523, and yet I've put about £1,750 in your kitty, so you owe me money. So they gave me back, at the end of the day, it's £3,500. What am I talking about? £3,500 and also £350, and they've reduced my tariff to 157. I'm just waiting to see. That if they put it up again, well, again I shall have a go at them and so on.
Well, £2,500 energy bills will be frozen at. That's already over what my household is paying a year.
So you won't have to pay it. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. You won't have to pay. But that means the cost of freezing the bills. You know what it is? £100 billion.
Is that for a year?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, no. According to Financial Times, it's not for a year. That's for 2 years. Man.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Well, it's not good, but it's good at the same time.
No, but
I don't know how to feel about it, really.
The point about it is that money will not go to actually helping poor people. It will go to the companies. Basically, to the companies.
Okay, well, how does it not help poor people? If it's being frozen at £2,500 a month, that helps my household a hell of a lot, because that's an extra, I believe, £1,000 a year in our pockets.
Well,
how does that not help us? That's really helpful.
Well,
in the short term.
In the short term.
In the short term, yeah.
No, but the thing about it is, you see, that is at the cost of £100 billion.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So where are they going to get that from? They're going to get it from taxes, from your mum.
No, they're going to get it from the magic money printer.
No, they're not. They're going to get it from your mum and other people who pay tax. Right? Now, the thing about it is that that money will go to the companies who are pleading poverty. Well, you happen to know that they're making profits and they're paying themselves bloody fortunes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all wrong, isn't it? Basically, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Now, all the other things. When she was lauding predecessor to the actual to Boris's record, when she was really grinding her teeth and saying, "Why she probably will go," and saying things that he had planned that have not happened, like the money into the NHS was one thing, wasn't it, that he promised, and actually to sort of rebalance the North and all that kind of thing. And those things that haven't happened. There's not, the NS reforms have not happened.
Well, she says here, NHS reforms to ensure everyone can get to see their GP is one of her plans, is one of her top 5. Yeah, hopefully she's got a magic wand. I don't know how she's going to do that. It's just, she says she will.
She'd be better off with a
She says
witch's
she-
broomstick, wouldn't she, really? I can't really understand. She's topping up all these bills. There's only one way she can pay them off, isn't it? It's put the taxes up, but she says she won't do that.
She's lowering taxes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, this is all helpful in the short term. All of this is going to be far worse for the long term. Printing all this mold, getting magic on all this money out of nowhere. What do you think?
At the end of the day, do you know what I mean? It's they can borrow, but we will be paying it back. Our children will be paying it back. Our grandchildren will be paying it back, and probably our great grandchildren will be paying.
Oh, don't tell me that. Oh, God, blimey. We've got 23 great grandchildren.
Really?
Do you know what I mean?
Jesus.
They will be paying it. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it? It's a phenomenal amount. But they're saying what is it? What I read saw on the news the other day is that that they're going to freeze it at this, but we will be paying those prices
Over time,
at least 10 years,
yeah,
wasn't it? Or 15 years.
Yeah, that's always been on the books, that one.
So, do you know what I mean? Is, at the end of the day, whether it goes down or not, we'll still be paying more, won't we?
Yeah, but what makes my blood boil? That money.
What
that
doesn't make your blood boil?
Well, huh?
What doesn't make your blood boil?
Just about everything, apart from you, about everything. There's nothing that makes my blood boil. No, but it's just they put this to these companies, supply companies, pleading poverty. In fact, they're coining it because that's where all the money's going.
Yeah.
It's not going to the consumers.
I've heard from every Conservative voter that they just want Boris back. Even my mum said that, who's a Green Party voter. How do you feel? Do you think either Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak would have been better?
I don't know. There's something about that Liz Truss I don't like. I think she's a little bit snidey. She's got that snidey look about her.
Yeah.
But you can't judge a book by its cover, can you? Let's see what she's done. But I think Rishi was more probably realistic. That he can't. This is not the time to cut taxes, and
Well, we've got inflation. No, he's quite right. Yeah.
And do this. So I think he would probably do possibly a better job. But proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Let's see. We can't judge her at the moment.
Yes.
So she's actually says brutal colour British team Rishi. Well, she's just culling a load of incompetence for another bunch of supply.
And at the moment, all she's doing is surrounding herself with people that support her.
We're going to agree with her.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that's what all of them do.
Yeah, but right, the thing about you've got this thing about people I know. He only knows about 5K Conservative voters. It's not a proper sample.
No, I know. I'm saying from anecdotal evidence. Most of my family.
I told you why. Because celebrities have colonised politics.
Yeah.
He is a celebrity. You don't want to. He is a celebrity. People don't vote for the Conservatives anymore. They vote for Boris because I saw him on the TV. He's a really good chap. I'm going to vote for him.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Trump. He's very, very rich. I'm going to vote for him. Hoping a bit of a rub off on them.
No, I can't even stand listening to Trump's voice. It just irritates me.
Oh, good. I'm very pleased to hear that. He's a fan of Trump's.
Are you?
Well, I think Trump is only an applicant member of the human race, actually. I've met him,
And you just want to tug his hair, don't you?
No, you want to take his comb over. I've met Trump.
Have you?
Well,
you met him in Scotland, didn't you?
I met him in Aberdeen, yeah. When he was doing that poor person to get his
I mean,
golf
he's the
course.
most dislikable
Course.
person.
And I
isn't
tell
he?
you something, you really do count your fingers after you shake hands with him. I tell you.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, no, he's a horrible, horrible person.
We've
But not you know, from what I
see in the
perceive,
media, yeah.
Yeah, that is. But
What do you think about Nigel Farage?
Nigel
No.
Farage.
fantastic bloke.
Yeah. Well.
No, he was an embarrassment, wasn't he? Really? Do you know what I mean? You think of him in the European Council or whatever it was in the things he used to come out with. Oh my God, you just want to cringe, don't you? Think
He's really, I've also met him as well. He's a barroom bore, he's a saloon bar bore.
Yeah.
Okay, George, I know about that, but he goes on and on and on and the rest of it. Oh.
Yeah, you just think, oh my God.
You know
this is
what?
Representing our country. Do you know what I mean?
When's your birthday, Stuart?
I'm not telling you.
When's your what
We're
date?
not going to make you a cake if you don't tell us.
Is it coming up this year or has it already been?
No, it's coming.
Okay. Well, I know what I'm going to get you for your birthday because
What's that?
Nigel Farage has just come out with his own brand of gin. So that's what I'm going to get you for your birthday. Nigel Farage gin. It's called A Taste of Brexit.
Do you know the last time I drank gin?
When?
It was when I was in Cambodia, right? And I used to drink copious amounts of gin because I knew they had quinine in it. And I was the only one, hang on, I was the only person in the press corps who didn't get dengue fever or malaria. The only one because of the quinine.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to buy me a bottle of quinine, I'll be grateful. But I don't drink gin, all right?
But yeah, Nigel Farage's new gin line is called A Taste of Brexit. So I was thinking about getting you one of those for your birthday or Christmas.
Well,
Well-
right. So what do you want to talk about now?
So we got some more headline. We have that awful woman nobody particularly likes, Meghan Markle. Okay.
What's his name?
Don't worry. So we have a story about this awful woman, Meghan Markle, and then the Daily Mail here has a funny headline. It says it's a play on her name, Meg Gann, because she compared herself to Gandhi, not Gandhi, Mandela, Nelson Mandela. So they're doing a play on words. That was unbelievable. I can't believe she compared herself to Nelson
Well, there's
Mandela.
no comparison at all, is there?
And her son, not her son, sorry, Nelson Mandela's son came out and said 60 years of apartheid is not the same as marrying a prince, which I thought was very funny and very true. So it says Meghan Markle's speech with 50 mentions of herself. She was doing a speech in Germany. And also, she said in Germany, and this is a quote here that she said, this is in Daily Mail, Harry was lucky to choose him, says Meghan, as the Sussex show rolls into Germany. It's annoying that they were the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Yeah, but calm down, Harry. You were calm,
Okay.
mate.
Huh?
On the other hand, I would think it's a big ask for any young woman to actually take on that kind of job. Who would want to be in the royal family? I mean, your life's not your own, is it? You have to behave all these kinds of things. Kate, had 10 years of training, but she was obviously, poor Diana. She was just taken on as a broodmare. It's absolutely awful.
What do you think happened to Diana? Do you think she died in a horrible car accident, or do you think she died in a horrible car accident that was planned?
No, I think it was. I think it was an accident.
You think it was an accident?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
I actually met Princess Diana.
Oh, did you?
No, when she was 16, she was
16.
She was in Salisbury. She was very, very friendly with the Robert Salisbury. She was there with her sister Sarah, and she was bloomy then. She was a rage. She was very shy, very wrong.
Really?
But to be taken out, because he's Duke of Edinburgh was a bully and bullied Charles all the time. Got to get yourself a wife, lad, And that poor girl was taken on simply as a brood mare to have a what's it called? an heir and a spare.
Yeah, an heir and a
once,
spare.
Once she's done that, she was all that.
I've never heard that before.
No, oh yeah, it's common.
That's very good. I like that.
An heir and a spare. So there's two of them. Now, this year, Harry's about 18th in the lines of the throne now, isn't he? At one stage, he would have been second, wouldn't he?
Yeah. So it goes Charles and then William.
No, it goes to William, I think.
Yeah.
After Charles.
After Charles.
Yeah.
Charles, you know what?
And then it goes, if he quotes it, it goes to the girl.
Right.
What's her name? Charlotte. Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Charlotte, then Louis, and then I think it's George. I mean, Harry, rather.
Right.
But I mean, I think, she was very silly to take on that job because, she's obviously not fit for it. And
no.
Maybe she's just a sort of gold digger. Maybe that's
I guarantee you that's what it was.
Yeah. How do you guarantee that? What's your guarantee?
Guarantee. And the guarantee is the wrong word. Extremely.
You're convinced. You're convinced.
Very, 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 very convinced.
That's
Not the word guarantee because that's liable. Liability. How do you say?
No, I think that. Yeah, I think she was convinced. I'm pretty convinced that she's a gold digger. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, I think probably she did get a lot of abuse from the household because they're not very nice people. Those people, people who mollycoddle the Queen and they do all her work for her and the rest of it. And they don't like, they don't like those young upstarts, that kind of thing. You know what they're like, these people? They're incredible snobs.
Mm.
These people they're the people who work for the royal family. They're incredibly snobbish. They seem to think that because they work for the royal family, they're special people. They're not.
In their eyes, they certainly are. Yeah, in their eyes, they certainly are. But
I think in her case, though, there was a bit of bullying went on. And I think there was a bit of bullying from Kate as well. But I mean, I think she was a gold digger. I'm pretty convinced that was what it was.
I'm very convinced, yeah. Well, she can crash up all the way to the bank.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Don't really have any, I don't have any sympathy for her at all. So, have you got anything from behind the Financial Times headline?
No, I haven't really looked at it.
Oh, well, probably best if you.
Oh, there's a very interesting thing about
okay.
by the Lex column.
So we have Liz Truss's cabinet.
Yeah, it's all mates, isn't it? It's all her mates.
Well, obviously, yeah. So what is Kemi Badenoch, what is she doing? International Trade Secretary, former Equalities Minister. I think she would have been better staying as Equalities Minister. I think she did a very, very good job in that role. Kemi Badenoch.
Oh, right. Yeah, she was very good. Yeah.
She was very good. I don't really know not many other people from this list. Ben Wallace staying as Defence Secretary. Jacob Rees-Mogg. He's been made Business Secretary.
Oh my God. You know what that means, don't you?
No, what?
Well, the minute Brexit was done, he buzzed off to Dublin to get an Irish passport.
Right.
So it was part of the EU, right?
Right.
Right. And he took his business all over there. Now, his business. What's it? He's going to be milking it like no one's business. I mean, he's a sort of Bertie Wooster figure, isn't he? Really? He's sort of what were his Rolls Royce and his double-breasted suits and his all.
Yeah. Well,
Zoella, next thing you can have Jeeves sitting next to him in Parliament. Thank you, Jeeves. Do you know about Bertie Wooster?
No.
No, he had to go, obviously.
I mean, Zoella Braverman is Home Secretary.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, but look.
And there's
Max. They're just changing one bunch of duds for another bunch of duds, aren't they?
Obviously.
Yeah.
So Nadham Zawi, do not like this guy. Former Chancellor, now Chancellor of the
But
Duchy of Lancer.
You
What does it
conservatives,
say?
you don't like chaps of dark pigmentation.
No, I didn't like him for his education policies. He wanted to ban homeschooling. Nobody does that. I can't say his name.
Tim Tubin, huh? Tom Tubin.
Tim is Minister of Security. Minister of Security.
That's quite good. Oh yeah, he's a soldier. He was a soldier.
Yeah, he was. And now Zahami is now the Dutch of. Can you read this? I don't understand.
Duchy of Lancaster.
What does that do? What's that job?
Oh, I think it's just the spare pair who does the fixes when other people can't do it. Duchy, he's the sort of. He stands in there. Duchy of the Chancellor of Lancaster. Yeah, it's just something that he's a sort of cabinet member that fills in for someone who's not there.
So Chloe Smith is the now the pension secretary and the ex-minister for disabled. Yeah.
Who's the Northern Ireland?
Chris something Harris. Chris Hathan Harris,
Never heard of him.
Northern Ireland Secretary and former Chief Whip.
Oh, has he got a job, this one? Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
Plenty more.
I was very hopeful that she would become our next Prime Minister. Very hopeful that she didn't. That was coming to end off. I think she did a very, very good job. But we got Liz Truss now. Yeah, that's. Sorry for the yawn. Health Secretary. Okay, this keeps happening. Have you ever seen the Belgium Health Secretary?
No.
Ginormous.
Yeah, epidemic.
Oh my, like morbidly obese. And now we have the Health Secretary is also obese.
That one, is it?
Yeah. She's the Health Secretary.
It's pretty big epidemic of obesity in Lewis, isn't it?
Probably, yeah. I don't know the statistics, but that would be like making me Health Secretary.
Oh, nice.
That doesn't really.
He writes Latin poetry and drops an F on University Challenge. British new 6'5", old Etonian Chancellor. God, dear. What's a black man doing that eating, mate? Oh my goodness gracious, mate.
Honestly,
It's all joking. I'm only winding you up. Trust the cat and his house first. To cat. I wonder if she's going to get a pull that one.
I'm not sure. Every single story in here is about Liz Truss. Almost every single story. And I'm getting fed up of talking about Liz Truss, to be honest. And I don't know if this is a usual thing, but what's her name? Why have I forgotten her name? Carrie Johnson, that's it. There we go. I don't know if this is a regular thing, but she's renting all of her clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perhaps she goes to charity shops. You never know, do you?
No, look, I mean, these are expensive. These are not charity shop prices. £990, £525, £795, £2,100, £2,800.
Oh, Boris has got the money, mate. Once he's
Yeah, but why is she renting the dresses? I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
Why? I just don't quite
No
understand.
idea.
Is that a normal thing?
I don't know.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sort of.
The first lady of high fashion. I think that's the headline for that story. Well, we're going to go to a little break. Did you actually find anything interesting behind the headlines of the Financial Times?
Well, that's interesting. But it's a big read. The unavoidable evil of fossil fuels.
The unavoidable evil. Do you think that is fossil? Do you think fossil fuels at the moment, as it is unavoidable?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I told you why.
Do you think? Yeah, I know. Lack of investment over it's going to take many decades. Yes, I do know why.
Because the lack of investment means that you've got to have a fossil fuel bridge.
Yes.
And gas is the cheapest or the less emitting, right? But you see, there's still what 15,000 barrels of oil in the North Sea.
Mm.
That's not an enormous amount as these things go. And
No.
of course, there's not any storage really. They wouldn't keep it. But all the stuff about we're going to use the North Sea, there's not a lot of gas or oil left there, you know.
Well, if I'm honest, I don't entirely believe that, because why would they be going there in the first place if there's almost nothing left?
Well, just to get the scrapings, basically.
Yeah.
Small companies can make oil.
Right. Okay.
It's 15,000 something else. Is it 15,000 barrels? 15,000 barrels. That's not a huge amount. Or maybe it might be 15 billion. Billion. I can't remember. It's 15 anyway. Well, they say that we're going to get our gas from the North Sea. Craig Clark came up. We get half of the gas is right. Well, we get our gas from the North Sea, but it's Norwegian gas. Our gas comes 40% from Norway, 30% from LNG from Qatar, and 5% from Russia. So that's not half the North Sea, is it?
No.
When they say the North Sea, they include the East Irish Sea. So I reckon there's about 34%.
Do you think this country should be energy independent? That is probably...
it's good for any country to be energy independent, but it's very, very expensive to bring that about.
Because under Trump, America was energy independent for a brief time.
Look, once they got fracking, America became energy independent.
Yeah.
It was not independent because it worked it to death. I mean, I know, I was there, I was writing about it every day of my life, right? Okay. But what happened when fracking came along made a new source of energy. Look, fracking has existed for 40 years, okay?
Is that all?
Yeah, 40 years.
Okay.
They've been fracking that, right? But all of a sudden they found ways of getting it up much easier and so on and so forth. Next week I'll do a whole piece on fracking. And they're now exporting gas. Some of it comes here, I think.
Yeah. Well,
but Mrs. Truss doesn't she doesn't understand what fracking means, basically.
Being energy independent, if we start fracking in this country and start producing more oil and doing the nuclear power plants, if we do that, now this is going to be hard to comprehend for some people, but if we do that, it's actually better for the environment.
It's better for the environment?
Yes.
Why is it?
It's better for the environment because we do it in our own country. We have that is the one form of bureaucracy. Sorry, can't speak. That is the one form of bureaucracy that I'm very happy with. I think that should be very under a magnifying glass in every aspect.
So what you're saying, in fact, if we only account for 1% of emissions, why bother? That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying it's better if we start digging more coal. It's better if we start drilling more oil. It's better if we start fracking for the environment. Because as it stands right now, we still use all of those. But what we do is we buy it from other countries.
Yeah.
We buy a lot of it from shithole countries.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, we do get a lot from Norway. But we get it from places like China and India and all these sorts of places which are very unstable and don't have the same laws and regulations as we do.
No, we
If-
don't. No, we don't.
We do get quite a bit.
From where?
The third world, second world shithole countries where they allow anything to go, where you can blind children from mercury poisoning by dumping it in the water.
You're talking. You're off the wall. Look, what? So why did you say we should have it here? Because we're nicer people than Saudi Arabians.
Well, a controversial opinion. Yes, I do think we are nicer than the Saudi Arabians who throw gay people off buildings and stone women to death for being raped. I do think we are better people than them.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do think we're better. But I also think we're more environmentally friendly than they are,
So
which I think is a no-brainer.
Look.
If we dig our own oil, there is more regulations about CO2 emissions, right? Whereas these other countries in the Middle East don't have that. They just dump it wherever.
Look, oil is carbon emitting, right?
Yes.
Fossil fuels, right?
Yes.
So is gas.
Yes.
So
Even
why-
the process of drilling
why-
it as well. Yeah.
Yes. So why is it good to have those things?
It's better to make it in this country than buying it abroad where it has to be shipped halfway across the world.
Well, you're talking about expense.
No, I'm talking about CO2 emission. Yes, it would be more expensive to do it in this country, but it would be better for the environment.
Why
To-
to do it in this country?
To do it in this country.
Why would it be better?
Because the laws in this country, you can only produce so much. It can't. I'm struggling with my words here right now. But we have better regulations on the environment than Saudi Arabia does. Do you
Yeah.
agree?
Yes.
Right? We are buying it from Saudi Arabia at the
Yeah.
moment.
No, we're not.
We are buying a portion of it from Saudi Arabia.
We are not.
Oh my god. Are we not then? No.
But
We're not
Boris
buying
went there to
the
get
Middle
some,
East.
and he was
Whatever.
told to piss off. And Biden was told to piss off.
Well, they've done something wrong.
Right?
Right.
Right?
Where do we get our oil from?
Where do we get
Where do we get our natural gases from?
Well, but BP is a global business.
Countries.
Yeah.
Where do we import from what countries?
Well, from Norway.
Norway.
For gas, yeah.
Yes.
BP Power.
That's not a country. What countries do we get our?
Well, where do they? I don't know where BP go these days. But they've got businesses in the States, everywhere around the world. Oh, and you're getting it here. LNG from Qatar is very expensive.
Oh, so we buy stuff from the Middle East.
Yes, we buy it from
Okay.
Qatar.
Oh,
LNG, you know what that is?
yes.
What is it?
I don't know.
Liquid natural gas, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
I don't think that the only reason to have fossil fuels here, in my opinion, is because we haven't invested in renewables, basically. And I think there's a great misunderstanding about nuclear because it's not renewable because it's dependent on uranium, right? So therefore, the only reason to have nuclear power is that it's not carbon emitting. But it's a very expensive business to have it.
Okay. So we're going to go to a short break, and then we will be back for the last half an hour of the show.
I won't be, but
you're not?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. So we'll be back soon. We're just going to play this short clip. We'll start off from where we left. Thank you.
But beer is very close to the hearts of this Sussex town because it's one of the main employers and industries. Earlier, I mentioned the John Harvey Tavern. John Harvey started his brewery on the banks of the River Ouse in 1790. He was one of the 16 that flourished here at one time. Now, with just the odd microbrewery popping up here and there, it's the only one. The brewery is close to the hearts of the community. The pubs it owns have in the main remained traditional, while its method of delivery has most definitely remained in the past. Miles Jenner is the chief brewer, and his range of beers reflects the activities of the local community. The dray that trots around town is a symbol of the tradition of the brewery, but also of the town. The beer maker turns out beers named after local events: Firecracker, Tom Paine, Bonfire Boy, and Lewis Castle. The name Harvey, synonymous with Lewis. You've been around, or the brewery has been around for quite a long time. Can you develop a little bit of the history for us?
Yes, the family came down, the Harvey family, from London. They were wine and spirit merchants at the end of the 18th century, and they started brewing in Lewis and on this site in the early 19th century.
I can stand next door to a man in a pub in Lewis, and he will swear that Harvey's taste quite different to anything else, and he won't drink anything else. I mean, what's the secret of the product?
Any brewer's beer is really a derivative of his water and yeast strain. We never talk of water, we talk only of liquor, but a local water supply and the brewer's yeast strain it gives his beer an individual character. You could take our recipes, exactly the same raw materials, go and brew at another brewery with their water and all their yeast and have a totally different brew at the end of it.
Talking of water, and you mentioned that the barges came up the ooze. How important was that to the brewery in the past?
Well, I think it was very important. It was, a fundamental form of communication, and if you were bringing a fair few tons of barley upstream, then it was a very sensible way of delivering. But just as industry sent stuff out to the river, so the river sent stuff back to them, and it wasn't unusual to brew with river water around your feet. And the last big flood we had in 2000, we were 6 foot deep in river water. We got our product together very well, we had a good reputation, the brewery was re-equipped, and we were producing a beer which became very much identified with the local community and was dear to their hearts. The fact the building is actually known as Lewis Cathedral tells you something about the way that Harvey's is viewed in Lewis.
The brewery flourished, but Lewis as a port rapidly declined. The familiar barges that had plied the River Ouse in the early 19th century carried loads of clay to the town. But the clay was used to build the beds for railway lines, and the death knell for river traffic sounded. The ships had consigned themselves to history. The first train to run from Lewis was in 1846. Since then, the railway has become an important junction in the national network. Trains from Lewis station run to Brighton in the west, Hastings in the east, Newhaven Port in the south, and London in the north. There have been successes and failures. Other lines were axed over time, with one, the Bluebell Railway, preserved as a steam preservation project. Back to our tale of the High Street. Cliff High Street is an extension of the High Street ending at the base of the Downs. At the end of it is an ancient church, St. Thomas of Becket. The Black Death wasn't the only medieval disease to strike Lewis. Leprosy was rife. This infectious and unsightly blight is first recorded in Lewis in soldiers who took part in the Battle of Lewis. It seems that the monks of the priory tended leprous people in 2 hospitals. Of the larger hospital, St. Nicholas, little remains, but the smaller hospital of St. James also treated lepers. Bones of the hundreds who died in the Battle of Lewis showed that leprosy was widespread. Don't wear this hat to look pretty, you know. There's a Sherlock gene in me somewhere that gets me into more trouble than enough. So I'm going to stick my head above the parapet and suggest that there's evidence of leprosy here long before the Normans paddled ashore at Hastings. The Church of St. Thomas of Becket in Cliff, that's the very far end of the High Street, up against the Downs, has a leper's slit. This was a channel built into the church wall, so that lepers could take Holy Communion without infecting the congregation. St. Thomas's is a very ancient church, with bits of it predating the Normans by quite a few years. The interesting thing about this slit is that it starts and ends inside the church itself. Additions were made to the church over the years, so it appears that the leper's slit was built into the original church, but encompassed within it as it was enlarged. Certainly leprosy entered Europe about the 4th century, but was only virulent in the 11th. But it seems that the disease was already in Lewes well before that. Anyway, the Cluniac Priory tended to lepers until a certain king's greed and love life shut the priory down. So leprosy could be added to the Black Death as a scourge of Lewes. But let's shuck off the historic events of bloody Lewes and celebrate the river, the way that our friends in Wind in the Willows did, the lovable mole and his friend Gung-Ho Ratty. Each summer, a raft race is held on the Ouse by the local round table. Teams from organisations, schools, businesses and even groups of individuals construct weird and wonderful rafts and race each other from Lewes down to the sea at Newhaven. Not a very fair race. The crews bombard each other with flour and water bombs, water pistols and any other old rubbish. Spectators add to the mayhem by pelting other missiles at the crews.
The first few hundred metres are quite torrid, because from the bridges here, people hurl flour bombs and eggs and all sorts of things at you, really. But when you get past Lewes, it's quite peaceful and serene down the river, and you've got the tide to help you along as well. Last year the theme was the Rio Olympics, so again it was quite open to interpretation. You could just take Brazilian culture or, of course, the Olympics. I actually took part last year. I duly sank in Newhaven Harbour, unfortunately. But obviously we put the proper safety provisions in place, and we were fished out before we were swept out into the English Channel. There's been suggestions this year that there will be pirate rafts and people drinking rum and trying to board other people's boats. But we'll see how that happens. We're limited for safety reasons to 25 rafts. In the next number of weeks, we're going to have talks with all the safety bodies, and perhaps we may be allowed more, but obviously safety is our main priority. This year I've been absolutely inundated with applications. I think I've sent out over 100 application forms.
Wow! Now how do you select which of the 25 are going to be lucky?
It's down to, in a lot of cases, the event is sponsored. So in many cases, sponsors may get priority, but overall it's just a lottery, really, and or the best rafts will be chosen.
Now, in fundraising, do people just donate, or what do you do? Do you have people shaking hands?
There's a certain amount of bucket collections, and also there's an entry fee for the raft race itself. A good portion of that money goes to the actual operational costs of providing the safety provisions and so on. But obviously, whatever's left over will go to the local charity.
Right.
This year, we're also in partnership with Newhaven Town Council, because they really wanted to get more involved, because obviously it finishes there. So this year we will be supporting a charity in Lewes and a charity in Newhaven.
A lot of people line the banks. Do you take an estimate of how many people are here on a good Sunday?
We would estimate maybe 5,000 to 7,000, but we've no way of telling, really. But it seems to be a very popular event, and the people of the town have taken it to their hearts.
Yes, indeed they have. I mean, it's a wonderful occasion. After all the bloodshed and death in this little town, that regatta makes me feel a lot better. Time for a little nap, I think.